If you're like me and you came across GURPS and started playing GURPS at the 3rd edition or earlier, back in '92, I started playing a bit of GURPS with 3rd edition. There was no default setting for this game. It's generic. You make up your own setting. That's why we all gravitated to GURPS in the first place. No problem. Didn't need a default setting. However, 4th edition does have a default setting. Now, if you're like me, you probably don't use it that much. I've actually never used it, and I often forget about it, even existing, to be honest. But I just wanted to go over tonight the default setting of GURPS 4th edition. It's called Infinite Worlds. This setting is a perfect fit for GURPS, and its generic rule set. The Infinite Worlds setting consists of a modern day world, slightly in the future from our own current modern day, but they've discovered something called parachronic technology, the ability to travel to parallel dimensions. And they've discovered infinite realities beyond our own. These entail other Earths. For the most part, they only describe other Earths here. But your imagination can go wild. You can have any kind of planet or other planets or whatever, galaxies, whatever. You can travel to these parallel universes, realities, parallel Earths, and get wrapped up in any kind of plot, any kind of timeline, any kind of technology. For instance, there are parallel Earths that are just like our own Earth, but further back on the timeline. So they may still be at the Stone Age, or they may still be in the medieval period, or they may be, or any combination, or they may be ahead, they may be in the future from our timeline. They may be similar to our own timeline, but divergent in historical events in some way. For instance, one of the major antagonists of this setting is a timeline where Nazi Germany won the war, and they did take over the world, and they in turn later discovered parachronic technology themselves. So the current world that you play in here, it's called Homeline. They are sending agents into other parallel Earths in search of things like resources, or well, whatever you can think of that might be useful. There's lots of different reasons you might want to go to other parallel Earths. But they find agents of this Nazi-run place in other worlds, jumping as well. Clashes and proxy wars can break out, stuff like that. Lots of intrigue. There's a lot of Cold War kind of feel there, but they can't jump currently to each other's dimensions, if that makes sense. There is a physics section here that explains that the two worlds, the two realities, are separated by 3 quanta, and Homeline can currently only jump 2 quantums. Homeline exists on quantum, 3? Quantum 5, and they can jump to quantum 6 or 7, but that's it, or down quantums. All very interesting. All lends itself very well to the GURPS generic system. Now, what are the tropes of this game? Because that's what I always go to for a decent setting. I'm always looking for what to grab onto, what to write adventures around, what conflict exists already that I can leverage, what intrigue is there, all that kind of stuff. In the Infinite World setting, you typically come from Homeline, which is like our modern day Earth, and you will probably work for the Infinity Patrol or some similar organization under their umbrella. These guys control the global technology of parachronics. They're kind of like the policemen, I guess. You're not allowed to build dimensional travel devices without licensing it from them first, and then they oversee your use of it, all of that stuff. These devices are massive and cost hundreds of millions of dollars to build and operate, so not just anybody can even acquire that, but some governments, large corporations, and some of the filthy rich do acquire dimensional travel devices. If you work for the Infinity Patrol, you are basically policing that technology on Earth. If a mob boss gets it and he's going to another world and maybe stealing goods, maybe he's stealing the Mona Lisa from a different world over and over again, from different worlds, perhaps several different worlds, and selling it on the black market. Stuff like that. Your Infinity Patrol might be called to kind of look into that, take down those bad guys. There's also the idea of cross-time recruitment, recruiting weirdos from other dimensions, and I-SWAT is usually who recruits those kind of people. These are the SWAT team, the hardcore infiltrators and explorers into other dimensions, other Earths that are more hostile, more risky. These are your professionals who can deal with anything and still get home. And this opens up the door to playing characters that are, whatever, anything, half demons, world jumpers, superheroes, goblins, elves, anything you can think of and build in GURPS. You could find your character being useful to an organization like the I-SWAT. Things get interesting with the physics of the positioning of different timelines and dimensions. If you get into say you jump to a timeline that is known as an echo of Earth, let's use Earth as the example. An echo of Earth would be a timeline which is somewhere in our history. They share the same history as our current Earth, or home line in this case, but they're not as far along the timeline. So maybe they're back in the year 1901, for instance. That would be an echo. You can change events, change history. By changing history, you can force timelines to change their positioning in the quantum structure. This can be done on purpose. It can be done, say Infinity Patrol or I-SWAT maybe finds a parallel dimension to Earth, and it's in quantum 3, sorry. That is very hard to get to. They can reach it with the biggest, most expensive equipment, but they can't transport many people or cargo there. They insert a small team into this planet, into this world in quantum 3, where maybe it's in the Stone Age or something, or it's maybe the Egyptian era, whatever, 2000 BC or whatever that was. If they can change history sufficiently in the correct direction, this is all up to GM Fiat, by the way. If they pull the right levers and change history accordingly to what the GM deems fitting, they can change the quantum of that reality upwards or downwards, and land it closer to home line, at which point they can more easily transverse into that quantum, into that timeline, and move more people, maybe cargo. So say they want to mine gold on that alternate Earth. It would be very beneficial if they could move the entire timeline, shift it up 2 quantum levels, right up into the adjacent quantum, or share a quantum level with Homeline. Then they could send larger, it's called a conveyor. It's just a large vehicle tank that you sit in, and it can jump. It does the actual dimensional jump. So if they could do that, for instance, then they could start sending more easily more people to go there, mine, and bring back gold. Stuff like that is happening. Those are the kind of the tropes, some of the main ones. I'm still, to be honest, just kind of reading over this stuff and getting into the Infinite Worlds setting. As I say, I've never run it. I'm thinking about possibly getting into this more in the future. There is also this very thick Infinite Worlds setting book. What is this? 238 pages long. A lot more meat there. But this setting is pretty perfect for GURPS, as I say. It allows you to tie in any setting that you ever want to play. You can have your characters jumping different dimensions. So you can take your investigator, your modern day investigator with his .38 revolver. He can find himself in medieval Europe in the past, more or less, or fighting cavemen in the Stone Age, or in the future, boarding spaceships. This is a vehicle to get you into those kind of situations and those settings and games. Very interesting. I kind of like it. As I say, I'm just getting into it more seriously now. I've known about it for the last 20 years, but never really played it, and I always forget that it kind of exists. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that tonight, because we often forget, especially us old-timers. We started with the good old 3rd edition GURPS, where there was no setting, no default setting, that is. Now we've got one with GURPS 4e, and all the setting books that were published for GURPS 3rd edition now can fit into Infinite Worlds. They just exist out there somewhere, and you can jump to those worlds, like the Banestorm world or the Reign of Steel world. What else is there? Discworld? I think that's another source book, world book. Infinite Worlds. It's a good time. Give it a try. Roll on.